Hi everyone, I'm going to tell you about my predictions for the week of February 4th. First, let's quickly recap my predictions for the week of January 28th. My overall predictions for the stock market for the past week was that it will go up, and indeed major indexes like Dow Jones and Nasdaq were up for the week. I did, however, expect that specifically on January 28th, the market would go up, and there was actually a fairly major drop in Dow Jones, so that did not come true. So as far as other predictions, I did predict that there would be fairly major earthquakes, and we did have two earthquakes at 6.1 on the, I believe, the 2nd of February, on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan, as well as in Indonesia. Then I also predicted there will be a greater than usual probability of major accidents, in particularly accidents at the nuclear power plants. And there was a reported leak of radioactive substances at a facility in Ibaraki Prefecture, north of Tokyo. There was also a prediction that I made for around the 30th to 31st of January that was specific to businesses that deal with shipping products long distances or internationally, and or that are engaged in travel and basically transporting people internationally and or over long distances, especially over water. And indeed on the 30th we had a really major rise in the value of the Royal Caribbean stock, about 8%, because they reported greater profits than expected. So as far as this week, the predictions are primarily for the market to go down the first 2 days, and that may have to do with some tense aspects to the charts of both China and the US. And let's see, I believe that on Wednesday and Thursday I expect the market to go up, and then a slight probability of it going back down on Friday. As far as the overall sort of mood or I guess influence for the week, it's not the most stressful week of the year. There will be, I would say, the months that I predict will be the most stressful would be January, which we just had, it ended, as well as June and September. Not to say that other months will not have any events, it's just that the aspects that kind of come together look the worst for those 3 months. So this week, the main, I guess, influence that I foresee potentially could be, like I said, some stressful events have to do with US and China, potentially negotiations, and that may bring the market down on the Monday and Tuesday. And then also around the February 7th and 8th, we may hear about some increased sort of military, either negotiations or activities or announcement of a new, I guess, I'm not sure, new plans that involve military, a new leader, and or something to do with weapons or attacks or initiatives that again involve military. And those will likely not be very popular and may involve some protests or negative aggressive reaction, and or there may just be increased number of various accidents, fires, explosions, or protests. And that's February 7th and 8th. Another prediction that sort of is ongoing is has to do specifically with the Supreme Court Justice in the US, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As I mentioned before, unfortunately for her, she's experiencing some difficult transits to her natal chart, so she may not necessarily feel her best. At the very minimum, she may just feel, stressed and busy, busier than usual. And if she is still basically keeps her job through February, then the next time where potentially there may be a change in either her career or just her circumstances would be May and June of 2019, which June of 2019, as I mentioned before, as well as in my annual predictions, is just looks like a very difficult month in general. And speaking of sort of earthquakes and whatnot, I did see news that apparently in Japan they have witnessed the increased sightings of the oarfish, the deep dwelling fish that I guess come up to the surface, at least per some observations, before maybe a major earthquake. And the next time for like a really big stressful earthquakes, I would say, would be, I mean, it is high, the probability is high the whole year and next year as well, but June, I would say, would be the next major month to look for something really big and large scale. So as far as other influences for Monday, a global influence is that we may see increased news related to areas of IT, telecoms, electricity, electric power plants, electric vehicles, high-tech, various electronics and various gadgets, as well as aerospace. There, the news may be positive and or just about the new projects of various sorts and or new leaders, or some changes that just, new step of some project or new stage of some project may begin. For US and for China, for both of those countries, charts will receive some stressful aspects. For US, there may be increased news about military, sales of weapons, or new projects, new leaders, new contracts or negotiations, perhaps maybe a sale of involving aircrafts or some either vehicles or I guess machinery that or devices that basically are transported by air, and or communication devices, or some sort of warfare that involves communication. And or as far as weather conditions, there may be increased news about fires and windy conditions, or accidents that again involve something, objects that fly, and or fires, explosions, and things of that nature. And there may also be increased negotiations about various sales and contracts with international partners, but those may be somewhat tense because of maybe kind of a tone that may be taken in those negotiations will be somewhat aggressive and not very compromising. And there may also be announcements about some new initiatives on behalf of, say, social media companies or transportation and or communication companies. But those new projects or, say, new leaders, they again may anger users, or some changes may anger users, or for some reason users may be upset with either social media, communication, or transportation companies. For China, there is also, for the 4th and 5th, Monday, Tuesday, of 4th and 5th of February, there is also increased emphasis on negotiations with international partners and or entering some sort of agreements, contract, and those also look tense, with the country experiencing that either it is pressured or manipulated, or itself, China may also be acting in some sort of manipulative manner and or pressure its partners. So either way, the negotiations, if this indeed is about negotiations between China and US, those may proceed, I would say, somewhat in a tense manner, with one or both parties kind of pressuring each other. It doesn't mean that there would be no agreements reached. It just means that things will proceed somewhat tensely and not necessarily easily. And my prediction for Monday and Tuesday that the market will be down both days. Then on February 5th and 6th for the US, there may be additional news, or I guess greater than usual news about profits and earnings, but the news may be along the lines that maybe the profits are less than expected, or they come from the area that's not necessarily expected, or that the investments hasn't quite yet paid off, or that more investments is needed before the profits can kind of be observed. So something along the lines where there's an imbalance of what was put in and sort of what the company or the country is getting out of the project or the product. And in particularly the areas that are affected may be farming, real estate, food production, and any sort of businesses or projects that rely on government contracts and or they provide services to the government. So those may suffer the most, and or there may be some news about the employment where perhaps again there's some sort of a imbalance of either of any sort, where again the payment is, I guess, either too much or too little, or not for what the services that are provided. So it doesn't mean that there's necessarily a loss. There may be profit, but it's not from the area that perhaps was predicted. Let's see. There may also be conflict between sort of areas or projects that are domestic, so earnings from domestic projects versus earnings or contracts and negotiations about, entering into some profitable agreements with international partners. So there's again going to be some sort of imbalance and disconnect where one sort of will not be in good balance with the other. So if there's an initiative to support maybe some domestic production, I don't know, perhaps in farming or something like that, it will somehow be not working very well in terms of agreements that are in place with international partners, or partners will not like it, and or there may be associated losses. So again, something that there's a disconnect between the local or domestic projects and projects that are jointly held or jointly entered in with international partners or being negotiated with international partners. And that's for the US for the Tuesday and Wednesday. On as far as the general kind of global market picture for Wednesday and Thursday, I believe that the market will be has a greater probability of going up and down, not a hugely positive days where everybody's like jumping with joy and excitement, but certainly mostly positive days in my view. Then also for the US, for Thursday and Friday, we may observe increased news about international trade, as well as any projects or I guess initiatives that have to do with, say, immigration, foreign affairs, laws, long distance transportation and shipment and communication. And there again, there may be either excessive sort of expansion internationally. By excessive, I mean something that may not be able to be sustained long term, or there may be losses from unexpected areas, again, due to some international agreements or lack of thereof. And or the profits perhaps are curtailed because certain agreements are not reached, or because, again, issues related to immigration are not resolved, or some shipment that's international may not quite get through because, again, of some legal obstacles or some international agreements that haven't really been put in place. So that may be hindering some profits, or that may be affecting the profits, or excessive kind of investments are needed to support such international projects initially, and it may not be immediate, or the profits from those may not be immediate or immediately obvious, or the profits may not be coming from the area where one would sort of expect or predict that they would come from. So again, there's some sort of disconnect between the expected profits from projects that involve international partners and or immigration or legal decisions, again, related to foreign trade or immigration, or sort of just even travel and transportation overseas, and what is sort of needed as far as investment and what may be expected to be gained from it. So more money may be spent than necessary, or the profits may not be as much as expected, or they may not come from the areas that one would expect them to come from. Similarly, also for the US on the 7th and 8th, another influence that will be strong on Friday and Thursday will be increased focus on either monetary policies or sales, especially online sales, and price of gold and silver, with relation again to specifically US dollar. And there may be either news about the increased volume, so just sales may increase for some reason. Trade may pick up, especially of sales online, and there may be some changes made in either policies or some regulations that somehow facilitate the sales or facilitate making payments, such that again it's easier to buy things online, or it's easier to exchange information or expedite the shipment, transfer payments, share information, again with the purpose of increasing sales, or maybe some sort of advertisement campaign. And in general, there may be just increased news about transportation and communication companies. So there may be some either new projects or, again, like I said, new regulations that somehow affect them. But the effect will likely be that it will facilitate online sales, and there may also be increased volume as far as like sales of gold and silver. And finally, for Friday, there may be the February the 8th, the global influence is such that there may be a major announcement coming that has to do with some sort of a major either attack, explosion, fire, and or military leader, military activities, or activities that involve weapons, or alternatively racing and or some sort of athletic events. So we may hear about either a new athlete, new military leader, like I said, new military campaign of some sort. And that may not be something that will be very popular, and there may be some protests or anger associated with that. And or, like I said, if say it's an athlete, we may hear about them being, I mean, hopefully not, but they might be hurt or something, basically that is more of a stressful type of news rather than positive news. And there, at the same time, there may also be increased news about pharmaceutical companies, healthcare companies, something along the lines of maybe there will be news about a new drug, new treatment, chemicals, poisons, things of that nature. And if it is news about, say, some sort of a new medicine or a new treatment, it will most likely be delivered via either some sort of a solution or spray that's inhaled, and it will probably have to do with some addictive substances or maybe feet. So it will be most likely an announcement about perhaps, like I said, a new treatment being approved or a new drug being released. At the same time, if it is a news about chemicals, it may be news about like a chemical attack, and again, obviously that would cause some anger and upset as far as reaction from the public to it. And that's for Friday. So I will be posting predictions for the upcoming week soon. There'll be more fun things to come. So I hope I'll see you again later on my channel.